What advice would you have for a young professional like me looking to climb the ranks like you have?
The opportunity to pursue CIMA, which I'm a massive fan of, slightly more practical than the technical CASA journey, where you're doing a bit of auditing and tax. Most CEOs are not interested in IFRS. They're interested in, can you help me change the profitability of this business? There's a bit of sensitivity out there sometimes. CFOs will hold back because I can't tell Palesa how this works, just don't you take the job.
Hello, professionals. Welcome back to another episode of By Profession with Presh. In studio today, I'm joined by Bradley Wentzel, who is a CGMA, a CFO SA, AGA SA, and is currently pursuing his PhD. Welcome to the podcast, Bradley.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
I do want us to touch on who Bradley is. So I came across your profile on LinkedIn and you shared a picture that we'll actually get into, but basically your journey to writing the APC exam, which I found very interesting because one, you have so many designations and you felt I need another one.
Exactly.
So before we get into that though, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So about me, kind of fairly small town boy, grew up at the coast in Port Elizabeth, now called AGA, a wonderful town. Still, yeah, they taught us Kozer at school. So, and then went to a fairly decent kind of school there, but always had some ambitions of doing a little bit more. So after a fairly long stint in university, where I had a bit more fun than what most should have had. I then did articles at BDO, also just wonderful in terms of being exposed to SMEs and doing from box audits. I mean, back then we would get a Mondi Roadstrom box of invoices and bank statements and everything, and have to compile the entire trial balance and then audit our own trial balance and draft the financials. And it was a wonderful thing. And then doing like massive listed guys as well. And then came to Joburg. The big bright lights of Joburg kind of called me, and I've been here kind of since, just trying to weave my way through things, always with a big purpose drive. I'm very much passionate, very much long on South Africa. I think we're a country that's filled with opportunity, a lot of problems, but with that creates those opportunities for people that are willing to create elegant solutions for that. So, I'm a big fan of SA. Do a bit of sport every kind of now and then. I play a bit of hockey, run a bit, and then try and keep learning, and most importantly, impart all that learning to those that are willing to listen and those people that are around me. So, big fan in trying to grow as many people and our great country as much as possible.
And why accounting?
Why accounting? So, to be honest with you, Palesa, I was always pretty good at it. It wasn't the most thrilling thing when I was at school. And then in your kind of first year, when you're 18, you're trying to figure out like, what am I about? And you know, I was at an all boys school. So when I went into varsity, all of a sudden there were girls there. And you're like, what are these funny things? You know, creatures walking around. And then I kind of had to pick something, and accounting was something I was fairly kind of good at. And
so what are you saying? It wasn't a thought through decision?
It wasn't the most thought through. But most importantly, my mother has been a bookkeeper for 45 years, and is the best accountant in terms of technical that I've ever met. And I was like, well, if mom can do it, then I can do it. So I kind of just carried that.
I feel like
that through.
Most of my guests that come through, they have some sort of family influence.
Yeah. That is, I mean,
choosing
accounting doesn't grip many people in terms of its sheer excitement.
You have many designations, as I went through in your intro.
Thank you.
Why?
Well, so they all started at different stages. So AGA was first. And then from there, the opportunity to pursue CIMA, which I'm a massive fan of, because it's slightly more practical than the technical CASA journey, where you're doing a bit of auditing and tax. So if you're doing CIMA, you're doing costings, you're doing margins, you're doing there's enterprise stuff in there, so there's leadership stuff in there as well. There's wonderful modules that give you a very nice kind of grounding in terms of business, where CICA tends to focus on tax and auditing and financial reporting, which are very important, but most CEOs are not interested in IFRS. They're interested in, can you help me change the profitability of this business? Then Cyber brought out the CFO SA, or CIBA now, or part of CIPA. They're all kind of linked. It's also very much linked to how are you outside of your profession? What are you doing in terms of leadership and growth and development? So it's people are looking to add on to the body of work where we're missing quite a big piece in terms of the accounting, which is leadership and people and soft skills. In 2017, I did an MBA, and then just got 0.1% enough marks to do a doctorate. So I thought I would give that a bit of a bash, because there's a perception that a PhD or a doctorate is something reserved for the elite and is too difficult, and my job is to prove that any person, even this buffoon, can also kind of get it done. And it's more around that's just one extra level up in terms of a master's, and that work can actually benefit SA as a whole. So it doesn't need to be overly difficult. It's more just about keep pushing yourself, and look, everybody can kind of do it. And if we keep raising the education watermark and the learning watermark, then that benefits all of us.
Last role you held was CFO.
Yes.
Why do you feel the need to continuously upskill yourself, even though technically you're already at the top?
I've been told many times, if you're not moving forward, you're standing still, right? And that's in business, and that's in personal, that's in your relationship, that's in everything. Everything requires you to be constantly working at it. You don't always have to be constantly working at taking big leaps, but it's just small steps in your relationship with your family or your mum or your partner. You've got to constantly be just moving at work, constantly moving, because the world is moving, and you need to either be keeping up with that or be kind of moving backwards. I don't think I'll ever stop learning, because part of my job, as you move up those ranks, more and more people look up to you, and it's part of your duty is to be as self-aware and as knowledgeable as possible, to impart a lot of that knowledge to them and help them forge their own paths from that. So you don't have to follow what I do, but I will tell you, this is how it worked for me, and this is what I saw, so that you can figure out what your course is, and kind of take it from there. Well, Brad saw it like that, and Pelesa saw it like that, and then this is the way that I want to do it from there. So the constant learning, I think, is important. We're also in a very exciting time. Where AI is here, and the world is changing relatively fast. So you've got to keep up. You've got to keep on the kind of cutting edge of things to just be relevant. Otherwise, we'll be old people sitting in the back of the coffee shop reading the newspaper, complaining about things that used to be kind of relatively soon. So I'm a big fan of, just, even if it's just a little bit, keep growing yourself daily.
What advice do you have for someone, before we even get to that, what did a typical day in the life of a CFO look for you?
So this is an interesting question, which is quite topical in terms of being a CFO in South Africa. So the perception is the South African CFO is CFO of Vodacom, or MTN, or kind of one of those massive global top 10 JSE listed kind of people. Their life is very different to kind of mine. the typical CFO in South Africa is an SME CFO, which is between 100 million to 1.5 to 2 billion kind of turnover business, and those individuals should be able to operate quite seamlessly across the entire business. So you're walking in, the front lady's name because the business is only 300 or 400 or 1,000 people deep. So you know the front lady's name, the shareholder's name, the finance manager's name, kind of everyone. So the typical my day is kind of coming in, and it's a lot of people management. Sometimes you got to roll your kind of sleeves up and get your hands dirty. The CFO of Vodacom is never going in and checking journal entries, or never making sure a bank kind of reconciles or any one of those things, because they've got processes and people and systems that kind of do that. Where as in mine, it's very much setting up process and growing the people to take care of a lot of the kind of heavy lifting stuff, and then from there you're managing risk and you're managing exceptions and you're and managing treasury. So that's also kind of quite important from there, and then dealing with stakeholders. So making sure your shareholders are happy, making sure your exco is good, making sure your personal team was happy. So and being more than just a boss, that's also really, really important. So it's quite a big mix of being technically sound. You don't have to be the most technically sound, because you should have people that are technically sound for you, but being well versed in people, stakeholder management, and in particular, our biggest role is cash and treasury, forecasting, knowing exactly what's happening, when it's happening, what your debtor's situation is, what your creditor's situation is, what your 3 months, 6 months, 12 months timeline in terms of cash run rate is, if there's challenges. There's a bit of sensitivity out there sometimes in terms of CFOs will hold back because I can't tell Palesa how this works, just once she takes my job.
Interesting.
No, I mean everybody's threatened by that, right? So whereas I disagree with that completely. I will teach you everything that I know, to the point where I cannot teach you anything else. And then either you take my job, cool, because you're better at it, or you go somewhere else and do what I do there, and then train the next cohort and impart that knowledge plus whatever else that you've learned throughout your entire journey on that. And that, I think, is critical in terms of just raising the entire skills base in SA. So my management style is very much a coach, mentor, leadership, teacher kind of style. I've been quite lucky to be in a lot of different types of businesses that have been through various stages of their own growth, so like buy side transactions, sell side transactions, startups, multinational stuff. Like I've done transfer pricing, which makes your eyes roll backwards. Heavily technical. So like I can take all that and then say, okay, I've seen this before and I've made this mistake before. Like, don't do that because I got caught out like that, which then helps them, and then they can say, okay, well, my CFO did this wrong before. So it's that's my kind of way of growing my kind of people, and it's also very purposeful in sitting and saying, like I was asking you earlier, what do you want to be when you grow up, and how do I help you get there? What can I do to help you? Maybe I can't teach you on how to become a rocket scientist. Yeah. But I can put you in touch with the right people or give you the right training so that if that's where you want to end up, then let's help you kind of get there.
Yeah. What advice would you have for a young professional like me looking to climb the ranks like you have?
So the current cohort of young professionals kind of coming through are very technically sound, but where we're lacking in particular in 2025 and kind of onwards is in the people side. So a lot of what we're not being trained is leadership and people management and relationships and stakeholder management. They teach it to you in a little textbook, and you're like, oh, you must do this, you must do this, you must do this, but you don't actually. You learn it through doing, and you also learn via making mistakes, right? So like if you've made the mistake before, you know not to do it again. So the purposeful relationship building and working on your soft skills, I think, is critical. In South Africa, we're a very labor intensive country. Where we just are, which means that a lot of the business leaders won't be sitting doing remote work in Portugal. You're going to be on the ground, dealing with your staff, dealing with your fellow management team. So you must be able to engage and learn how to influence authentically. So leadership is influence. It's me guiding you, not me telling you. It's me guiding you. So it's how do you work on all those kind of soft skills, and it's purposeful. Like everybody knows that you're smart. Everybody knows that you're technically proficient, but it's you haven't been coached on people yet, and you've got to either find a way to kind of train yourself, or which can be luck of the draw based on what business you kind of go in. If you get a wonderful business leader who's very EQ driven, they might train you, or you physically got to go and do a postgrad course on leadership, or do something to kind of build that, because that's how you're going to get up the ranks.
What qualities exactly do you think you would need to take from that leadership course? Your ability to listen? Is it your negotiation skills? Like what exactly? I'm trying to paint a clear picture here.
That's a great question. So I've been lucky enough to do a few leadership courses through formal universities, and then through like post negotiation courses and kind of those things. A lot of it is self-reflection, right? So you got to spend a lot of time understanding yourself. What's your values? What's your drivers? What's your blind spots? How do you operate when you're under pressure? How does that, and then once you've got that, it's then, okay, this is how I am. And then it's, how do I understand the people that are around me? So then it's the listening piece. So first is me. Then two, it's listening to then understand, what is my environment like? Well, Palesa likes 1, 2, 3, 4. Doesn't like it when I do that. So my personality type, this clashes with her personality type, that. How am I going to, because it's always me, how am I going to then help to manage that conflict, or manage that, it doesn't have to be conflict, but manage that little difference, so that I can still influence her in a way which is authentic and trusting. Leadership is about trust. And it's how do I build that trust through often different personality styles, different ways of thinking, different all of that. So focus on you, and then to your point, find ways to listen. They like always say, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth so that you can listen. And it is about listening. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room. Most of the best CEOs in the world are very quiet, back office people, not leaders by design, but more leaders that have listened and are able to just get the right people to do the right things through not through shouting, through influence.